Hello, everyone. I'm here to show you a couple of things here now. This is Brad Huffines. This 11 o'clock update has, in fact, shown some change in what's happening, as kind of expected. Change has been the key word for Hurricane Florence in the past 4 or 5 days, as is not uncommon for these tropical systems when they're moving ashore. Change happens, and change is guaranteed. So I'm going to let folks join just for a few minutes, see who's going to join up here. Monica's on, Greg Sapp, Donna Clayton Lloyd, Fayetteville. You need to pay attention, Donna, to this tonight. Megan DeMay Cook has joined. Megan, you as well. What looked to be improving news for the Sandhills and for the Fayetteville area, Veronica as well. What looked to be better news for the Sandhills, where we live in southern North Carolina, earlier today has started to show we're kind of moving now back into that stormier phase. This conversation we're going to have tonight is going to get very technical. It's going to get very weathery. This is going to be kind of a weather geek conversation that we're going to have because the storm is now getting close enough that we're starting to kind of see what's going to happen with this storm. I want to point out a few things to start off with. First, the storm right here, the 11 o'clock advisory is right here. But I want you to understand, as far as we are concerned who live inland, what the storm is doing right now, it doesn't really matter how strong the storm is. No, the storm will not intensify more as it approaches the shoreline. It will continue to weaken. In fact, what I want you to notice in this advisory, every single advisory up to this point has shown the letter M. It's been M here, M here, M here. M showed the chance of a major hurricane. Now it's just an H, which means, again, the Hurricane Center forecast is showing that the intensity is going to continue to drop. As the intensity drops, that doesn't mean that we won't see lots of rain and some damaging winds. It just means that we're not going to be hit with the storm that the media has been portraying as, oh my God, the worst storm since Hurricane Hazel. Folks, I want to remind you that when you, I really can't stress enough, especially for those folks who live locally, weather is a local event. Weather is not a national event. Now, national news networks try to make it a national event because they have to infotain people that live in Philadelphia and Chicago and Los Angeles and Dallas-Fort Worth and Seattle. I've done that before, okay? In my years on CNN, I was responsible for being that infotainer to keep people watching nationwide, even though weather was a local event. I've been there. I've done that. I've had the producers in my ears telling me, make it more exciting, make it sound worse, et cetera, et cetera. So turn the heck off. Turn off the Weather Entertainment Network. Turn off the cable news networks. Watch your local TV stations and watch these videos that I'm producing. And share them liberally with those people who live in the path of this storm, because we're going to talk very straight stuff, straight science, straight talk, okay? So please don't watch those people that are going to freak you out. Lots of people are being freaked out right now. They're still being freaked out by information, and some horrible information on social media. Please find that source of information that is trustworthy, knowledgeable, has been there before, and stick with them, okay? So first off, that's my first message. Sam, thanks for joining as well. Here's what the Hurricane Center forecast is, and here's how it has changed, okay? The earlier Hurricane Center forecast, I'm going to draw on the screen this time. I found a cool little nifty tool that I can use, and you're going to see me mess it up several times. Earlier today, the forecast was basically here, okay? Notice how the forecast has changed. It's now gone a little bit farther north again. All right, so now the forecast is for the hurricane to weaken, but to move a little bit farther inland now, somewhere around Wilmington, North Carolina, give or take, all right? Again, this forecast will change, as all of them do. All these Hurricane Center forecasts they're snapshots. The Hurricane Center does fairly firmly believe that what's going to happen, this storm will eventually curve to the left. Let me show you why. A couple of reasons why. Computer forecast models are showing the storm moving up toward the shoreline and either making landfall and then turning left, or turning left down the coast. Let me show you how the forecasts have been changing hour by hour. So this is about 18 hours ago, or maybe 24 hours ago, where it showed the storm coming up, and again, all these computer models agreeing that they're going to turn to the left, okay? Now, notice the little subtle difference. Here, the left turn is offshore 24 hours ago. 18 hours ago, the left turn was starting to happen around the shoreline. About 6 hours ago, the left turn was starting to happen just offshore or around the shoreline. This time, the left turn is happening right, basically inland. All right, so this is the little subtle change that will make a dramatic difference in what you experience living in the sandhills of southern North Carolina, Fayetteville area, up towards Sanford. And again, I'm really focusing on this part of the map, all right? I will let somebody else talk about what's happening in Wilmington and Myrtle Beach and Columbia and Charlotte. I'm talking to folks right now that live in the southern sandhills of southern North Carolina to show you what this thing is doing. Getting more people joining now. Bruce, my dance instructor, has joined. Tina has joined, Steve has joined. So again, what I'm seeing is little subtle changes in the computer modeling, and it's those little subtle changes that the National Weather Service is now starting to change their forecast. So here is the 11 o'clock advisory forecast. Again, I want to point out a couple of things. First thing that has changed fairly dramatically is this letter. I'm going to change to a highlighter, I think, maybe not. This right here, that has gone from being an M to an H, which means that the Hurricane Center is accurately predicting a weakening of this hurricane. So this storm is going to continue to move toward the shoreline. It will continue to, as it's moving ashore, it will continue to curve to the left right about the time it's hitting the shoreline. What time is that supposed to be? According to the latest National Hurricane Center forecast, the middle of the storm, the eye, sometime around Friday morning. But as we know, this storm is a pretty large storm. This is the hurricane force winds. Here's the tropical storm force winds, and there's rain all through this. So as the storm is moving toward the shoreline, we'll start likely seeing the effects of the heavy bands of rain moving ashore 12, 14, 18 hours. Sometime around 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon tomorrow, we'll start seeing some pretty heavy rains along the shoreline in North Carolina, South Carolina, maybe even earlier than that. Then as the storm continues to move and we see the wind gradient increase, what in the heck is a wind gradient, Brad? Okay, this is where we get kind of geeky on you. This is the geek stuff. Be prepared. Geek alert. Put on your geek hat. We're here. Welcome, geeks. What this is one of the computer models that is showing, again, don't really focus on exactly where this storm is going. What I want you to focus on is the bands of rain around this storm. So as you're looking at this storm and what's happening with the storm, notice that the bands of rain are starting to, again, I've talked about since the beginning we've been talking, the heaviest bands of rain are always ahead and to the right of the center of circulation. So that's where the heaviest rains will be, to the right of the center of circulation. That's where the rainfall dumps whenever the hurricane loses its energy, has all this water in the air, has all this water in a bucket. It no longer has the strength to hold the bucket, so it turns the bucket upside down. Bam, the water hits the ground. So this is one of the reasons why we're going to experience some very heavy rains. But notice, as that rainfall shield, notice that it's very heavy rain in eastern, south central North Carolina, up into central North Carolina. This includes the sandhills. But what I want you to also notice how close together these lines are. Let me zoom, erase that for just a second. Take that off the map, zoom in just a little bit, stop the animation, and go frame by frame. So when I go backwards and you see these lines, those are lines of pressure. Okay, those lines of pressure show that the closer these lines are together, the stronger the winds. So now you're looking at a forecast that is about 16 Zulu time, 11 o'clock in the morning-ish. That's when the strong winds are really starting to affect the shoreline. Then we move in another few hours, and notice how this wind gradient is really packing it in from the coastline up toward Fayetteville, North Carolina. So by 4 or 5 o'clock, you'll start seeing some pretty breezy winds approaching Fayetteville. Then you get up into a couple more hours. You get up to 8 o'clock at night. Notice the breezy winds are still there. Hurricane still hasn't made landfall, so still very strong winds as far east, as far west, I should say, as Fayetteville, maybe Rayford. And those could be tropical storm force winds, sustained winds of 40, 45, 50 miles an hour. Notice there's not a lot of rain in that system yet, just the winds are going to start. Then the hurricane moves ashore, and notice how that gradient really tightens up. Strong winds, very strong winds again, Fayetteville, Rayford, Sanford, Southern Pines, Pinehurst. This looks like we're going to see more winds than what it looked like it was going to be earlier today. But watch how quickly in the overnight hours on Friday, Notice how quickly overnight Friday this storm moves ashore. Again, heavy wind gradients here. Folks, this is going to be a very windy event as of right now, Friday morning, overnight. This is when we're going to start losing some power. You may go to sleep with power on Thursday night, wake up with no power on Friday morning. That's a good possibility for a large swath of eastern and southern North Carolina, as well as eastern portions of South Carolina. So this is, once again, kind of returning to what the threat was about 18 hours ago, that we're going to see some very heavy rains. Notice how heavy the rains, but notice right now, as of right now, winds are packing in, rains are starting sometime after midnight on Friday night. Then as the storm moves inland, watch how quickly the gradient of winds begins to lighten up. Right, the gradient of wind starts to lighten up sometime by Friday afternoon. But still, what I want you to see here, it's still going to be a windy storm, depending upon where this thing goes. Don't focus on where it goes, because again, this low pressure system, which is going to be this storm, could very well then track farther south. It could track a little bit farther north. So this is the zone where we're going to be seeing heavy winds and rain into Thursday night, Friday, much of the day Friday, in fact, because this is a very slow-moving storm. This is one of the reasons why we may see some pretty good number of power outages in this part of North Carolina, because it's a lot of trees, a lot of limbs are going to come out of the trees there, even in the inland areas. So as we're watching this storm move along, watch what the rain is doing. Notice this rain shield is starting to expand into Friday evening and Saturday. Lots of rain, lots of rain, lots of rain where we are in southern South Carolina. Lots of rain. Now, the good news about Moore County is we really, thanks, Angie. I need a cough drop. I don't need a cough drop. I can talk for hours. As this storm is moving inland and the rains are falling, the good news is Moore County, North Carolina doesn't necessarily have a flash flooding problem. Doesn't mean that we won't see low-lying areas of of water collecting. It doesn't mean that we won't see some scattered areas of flooding. For the most part, the flash flood and the flooding is going to occur from Cumberland County, Fayetteville, and east and southeast. Lumberton may get hit again with some very, very heavy rains and flooding, as well as portions of Fayetteville and Cumberland County. We're going to see some very heavy rains that are going to cause some flooding in areas that may not have flooded before, similar to Matthew. May see some flooding again. So flooding is going to be an issue. Wind is going to be an issue in this one. Then as we move this into Saturday morning at about midnight, notice the rain in this computer model, the rain is still falling because the storm is not moving much. In the next 24 hours, the storm's going to move quite a distance. Then in the following 24 hours, the storm's only going to move 50, 60, 70 miles. All that water is going to dump straight down on top of us. So that's why the flooding is really going to be an issue here. But notice now we are into Saturday morning, more rain, Saturday afternoon, more rain. So the rain is going to start and continue as long as this storm is basically sitting and not moving a lot. That's one of the models. Another model shows something similar, shows it hitting the shoreline, slowing down, dumping the rain. Another computer model, this one's moving a little bit faster. This is the vaunted European model. It is now kind of agreeing with everything else so far, which is kind of unique for the storm to move toward the shoreline. The European model has it move toward the shoreline, jog down toward Charleston, and then inland. That means that Charleston may see some tropical storm, maybe brief hurricane force winds along the shoreline, as well as Myrtle Beach. We're going to be seeing some heavy damage from Wilmington to Myrtle Beach all the way down to Charleston. Some of the Barrier Islands are going to see some wind damage. Good news is the storm surge, which is a real problem. I haven't shown you the storm surge map yet, and I want to show you that. And this is an interesting thing to point out. So here's the storm surge, the flood, the saltwater inundation map that the National Hurricane Center is showing us. So even though notice where the center of circulation is moving in. The center of circulation is basically moving in, sorry, I got to fix my drawer. Center of circulation looks like it's going to be moving in somewhere around here, for instance, all right? Notice that, again, the winds in a hurricane do this. They're blowing in a counterclockwise direction, like that. So the storm has been blowing now as it's been moving this direction. The winds have been blowing this direction for days. So there's a ton of momentum of ocean water that's blowing toward the shoreline. And where the ocean water hits the land, it's like getting a coffee cup and blowing across the coffee cup. When the coffee hits the edge at the other side, it's going to spill over. That's why the storm surge along that far edge, notice where the storm surge, even though it may be far away from the hurricane winds, we're going to still see lots of saltwater incursion through the Pamlico Sound up into Greenville, up toward Kinston, up toward Jacksonville. So still lots of saltwater incursion. Most of this, the good news is marshland. Most of it has handled saltwater before. Not a major deal. Get down to the south, and the good news is, since the wind down south, since it's not moving, the heaviest storm surge happens when the wind is perpendicular. When the wind is perpendicular to the shoreline, that's when you start seeing the highest storm surge. But that's not what's going to happen. The wind isn't going to be perpendicular. The wind is going to be blowing in this direction. So that's why the storm surge is so much worse up here than it is down here, because the wind is blowing parallel to the coast, so it's blowing the salt water basically right along the shoreline, so you're not seeing a whole lot of massive storm surge. This shouldn't be a massive storm surge creating storm for the Wilmington area, for the Myrtle Beach area. Still be 4 or 5 feet above sea level, maybe 6, 7 feet in some areas, but it's not going to be the Hurricane Hugo 20, 30 feet of storm surge that they had just north of Charleston. So that's one bit of good news. Storm surge isn't necessarily going to be the main issue. The main issue is going to be the winds and the rain that are going to move across southern parts of North Carolina, eastern portions of South Carolina, as well as the sandhills of North Carolina. So what looked a little bit better today is starting to get a little bit more serious for those of us in the sandhills now. Again, not seeing a devastating hurricane blow, but seeing several hours of tropical storm force winds, which will take down some limbs and trees. Fayetteville, you might even see, there's a slight chance you may see a couple hours of hurricane force winds near 70 miles an hour. Let's be clear, this storm will not produce 100-mile-an-hour winds ashore, okay? It won't happen. It may happen along the shoreline. You may see 95, 105-mile-an-hour winds there. Then along a line like that, you may see about 70-mile-an-hour wind gusts. Along a line like this, which, by the way, that's the Sandhills, you may see around 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts. I don't know why my pen just got tiny. So you might see 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts into Friday morning, Friday afternoon in that line. And then you get farther inland, Charlotte probably won't see a wind gust more than about 50. So we are going to be seeing some strong sustained winds. We are going to be seeing lots of rain. So those are the two threats with this storm in south central North Carolina, is the very heavy rains that are going to fall, and then the winds that are going to continue to blow for hours, and that can knock down some trees, limbs, and cause some scattered power outages. So the National Weather Service in Raleigh, which is one of the websites I strongly suggest that you mark on your page, the National Weather Service in Raleigh, North Carolina, which is weather.gov/RAH. Weather.gov/RAH shows now a brand new, congratulations, Moore County, North Carolina. You now are the owners of a brand new tropical storm warning. I'm sorry, tropical storm watch. Congratulations, Fayetteville. You're now the brand new owners of a tropical storm warning. That means tropical storm force winds are expected in the next 24 to 36 hours. In Moore County, in Hoke County, in Lee County, pretty good chance that you may see tropical storm force winds. That's why a tropical storm watch has been issued now for Moore County and for surrounding counties. So with a tropical storm watch now in effect here, tropical storm warning means it's likely up toward Goldsboro, Lumberton, and Fayetteville. This is a watch area here. This is the warning area here. We're expecting to see for sure tropical storm force winds in Fayetteville, parts of Rayford, Hoke County, up into Moore County, Sanford, up into Lee and Harnett County. Good chance that we'll still see some tropical storm force winds. But now Weather Service is reacting to the new forecast, and they're starting to issue their new sets of warnings. So that's why I want you to go to weather.gov/RAH. Follow this page. Then on the weather.gov/RAH page, they have a really cool subsection on the website. You're going to find it down here where it says Tropical Web Page. Click on the Tropical Web Page, and voila, here's what you'll see. Hit threats and impacts, and this is really what I want to show you here. So here we are in Sanford, Rockingham. Zoom in a little bit more, and you see Southern Pines and Pinehurst. See Fayetteville over here, Fort Bragg in the middle. So what I'm showing you right now is I'm showing you the map of coastal threats and potential impacts. Map of coastal threats and potential impacts. Okay, zoom out just a little bit more so I can show you the legend. So the legend is basically strong winds, really strong wind, hurricane force winds, very strong winds, less but strong winds, So you notice that Fayetteville, you're going to see, again, the potential for some hurricane force wind gusts that may even go down into parts of Hoke County. Moore County, likely a good chance of tropical storm force winds. Some strong tropical storm force winds are now in the forecast. So that's the wind threat. The flooding rain threat. Flooding rain threat is very high for all of us. The flooding rain threat is a major potential for flooding rains from Fayetteville south and east. Extreme flooding rain, basically Lumberton and east. Sand Hills, you're going to see a moderate chance of some flooding rain, same from Rockingham. So the rain threat is going to be high. The tornado threat, which frequently happens to the right of when the storms move inland, the tornado threat is basically, on average, east of I-95, although we could see a few spin-ups where you see the gray. So don't be surprised if you see some tornado warnings happen. That's why I strongly suggest that you have Weather Call. Go to weathercall.net, sign up for Weather Call at home, because that's the only service that's going to give you phone calls whenever you are in the path of a tornado warning, specifically not a county warning. It's the best service available in the country. Trust me, I've been doing this for 10 years for them, and they're incredible. It's Weather Call, weathercall.net. Get Weather Call at home, $9.95 a year, the best $10 you'll ever spend in your entire life. Okay. Kathy LaRose, thank you very, very much for your compliment. I appreciate it. Scott's joining from Tulsa. Jim Busby, my stepdad here in Southern Pines. Scott Eaton from Muskogee, right? Morris Lentz from Northwest Alabama. Lots of folks are watching this. So this is my straight talk on the hurricane. This is my straight talk to the folks that live here. This is my no hype stuff. This is what the hurricane's going to be doing. Now, again, please give some leeway in this hurricane path. It could go back to the south. It could go back to the north. It could do a lot of things. But basically, that's what this cone of uncertainty is for. That's why these lines are here. That means that whatever I've just shown you could happen north up to here or south down to here. So we're going to be seeing wind and rain, and the chance is going to increase. The threat's going to increase. What I don't want you to do is panic and freak out. We're not going to be seeing a hurricane in Moore County. We're going to see some strong gusty winds. And let me tell you right now, after the past several days of virtually no wind, after several days of, I'm talking calm winds, a 30-mile-an-hour wind gust right now would seem high. So a 60-mile-an-hour wind gust is going to seem amazingly strong and extreme. And again, that's why we're going to see some power outages, because it will shake some limbs from some trees, knock down a few trees, and it may take you a couple of days. So be ready tomorrow by about noon or so, or maybe 6 o'clock in the evening. Have your car gassed up, have your batteries charged, have all the stuff that you need in case you lose power, have enough non-perishable food for 3 days for every member of your family. Water, don't think it's going to be much of an issue. Don't believe that's going to be much of an issue, but you may want to have some bottled water just in case you can't get it out of the tap. Scott Brooks, who joined us a few minutes ago. Scott is an assignments manager at KOTV in Tulsa, been there for many years, a really good news guy. Scott reminded me to remind you that, especially in this part of the country, where in the Sandhills we see pine trees everywhere, but we still see some pretty big canopy live oaks and oak trees. We've seen enough rain recently to soften up some of the ground, especially then once the rain starts to really pile up and the winds are going to still blow. The leaf canopy makes a great wind catcher. And when it catches the wind, it puts a lot of stress on those trees, and you can knock down those trees and the entire root system. And if the tree falls on or near a driveway, fence, house, it can do some real damage. So if you live in a place where you may see falling trees, you're worried about that, there are shelters opening up in parts of almost every county in southern North Carolina. You may want to think about going to a safe place, finding out where those are. If you feel like you're going to be threatened by falling trees. Because what I will tell you, it's going to feel unpleasant. There's no question. There's no way around that. We're not going to be seeing a true hurricane. You're not going to have debris flying in your windows, but you are going to see enough stuff to fall around. Also, check around your property. You may want to bring in lawn furniture, anything that could become a projectile in a 50 or 60-mile-an-hour wind and bust through a window or a sliding glass door. Secure those things. Make sure that you don't have any things that could blow around and cause you problems. Okay. So spend time doing that. Share this video if you would, if you live in southern South Carolina. Lisa Marie just joined from Savannah. Ross, by the way, Ross, one of my buddies from CNN. Ross has traveled. Ross is an amazing guy, man. I'm telling you what. Billy, been doing local radio. Marguerite as well from Savannah. Lisa Marie is in Savannah as well. Tony, gosh, I've known some of these people for a long time. But anyway, share this video if you know people in the Sandhills of Southern Pines, Fayetteville, North Carolina. Share the video liberally. I really want a lot of people to watch this because they're going to hear some details and some straight talk that you're not going to hear from other places. And that's kind of what I want to do is make sure that I'm serving you with the best information that I possibly can. Just to let you know where I'm getting my weather graphics from for this specific series of web talks. I'm getting it from spaghettimodels.com, spaghettimodels.com. I don't have anything to do with this website. There's also another cool website called tropicaltidbits.com. Tropicaltidbits.com is where I got some of this computer animation stuff for the computer models. So, some really cool websites out there. Tropical Tidbits and Spaghetti Models. I'm getting a lot of my weather data from here and doing a lot of other research myself. So there's some pretty cool websites out there. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to be on Star 105.3, a local radio station, FM station here in the Sandhills of North Carolina, in Southern Pines. I'll be on at 7, 7:30, 8, and 8:30 live in their studios. You can, if you want to listen, you can go to Star 102.5 and listen online. And you want to hear those weather reports. I'll also be doing these Facebook things throughout the day tomorrow and into Friday as well. Monica, my wife, has just reminded folks Southern Pines has opened up a community room for charging electronics if we lose power. So again, reminder, Southern Pines Police Department has opened up its community room. Southern Pines Police Department off of Bennett Street near US 1. Has opened up its, not Bennett Street, Pennsylvania off of US 1 is opening up its community room for charging electronics if we lose power. Remember that you have a car battery. Make sure your cars are full of fuel because that may be the only way that you can charge your cell phone because you're going to get a lot of information off your phone. The cell phone, for the most part, cell phone network usually stays up during things like this unless it's a devastating storm. So you should have cell power. You should have cell data even though you may lose your internet or your power to run your internet at home. So make sure you have your car is Star 102.5. Did I say that? Did I mess that up? Star 102.5 is where I'll be doing the weather tomorrow morning. Star 102.5. I'll be talking hurricane stuff with those folks, Rich and Jenny, in the morning. Great group of folks, and they're trying to be public servants here as well. Have I missed anything, anybody? As I'm sitting there watching comments, I finally learned how to read your comments while I'm doing this Facebook Live from my desktop computer. Have I forgotten anything? Is there anything I need to share? Scott may still be watching. Scott Brooks is the one who reminded me to remind you about large canopy trees. Again, there's so much to remember in these things. I can't possibly remember it all, and that's why we're a community of people that share with each other. That's the beauty of Facebook and social media. There's also an ugly side to people that don't have any idea what they're talking about, pretending like they do. So take this video once I finish it. Please share it. Please encourage folks to watch it. Regardless, please stay safe. Make sure that you have your 3-day supply of non-perishable food, water. Remember, if you get bread, eggs, and milk, buy syrup because all you can make is French toast if you have power. Again, non-perishable foods don't have peanut. You don't have nut allergies. Crackers, and you can survive on crackers and peanut butter for a couple of days. You're going to be fine. Soups that you can crack open and get into. Good news is I happen to live in a house that has natural gas, so I will be able to take warm showers and cook food as the freezer thaws out if we lose power. So that's what's happening here. Again, make sure that you these isolated tornadoes that are going to happen. Again, National Weather Service in Raleigh still puts the chance of isolated tornadoes. That's what Weather Call is for. Make sure that you go to weathercall.net, sign up for Weather Call at home. You can also go to WRAL's website and sign up for Weather Call. Just go to WRAL.com. Search for Weather Call and to sign up. You'll get the wonderful intonations of Greg Fischel calling you if you are in the specific path of a tornado warning or a severe thunderstorm warning if you choose. Or you can go to weathercall.net, sign up for weathercall.home, and it may sound something similar to me calling you just in case I need to wake you up at 2 o'clock in the morning and tell you to get in shelter if a tornado is coming your way. So that's the latest. Again, the wind threat is very high. Wind threat is now very high across southeastern North Carolina into Fayetteville. Pretty high wind threat. Sandhills, moderately high wind threat. flooding threat for all of us is pretty high, especially Jacksonville, Wilmington, up toward Fayetteville. So again, another major flooding event from Fayetteville east. Even parts of Cumberland County may see some pretty serious flooding. We don't, again, a reminder, we don't necessarily see bad floods here in Moore County because of our terrain and all the sand. Sand really is a great absorbent material for dirt. It allows the dirt to absorb, not necessarily run off. I'm giving a few more minutes for people to remind me what I haven't said. Bill Payer now lives in Charleston. Bill was my news director at K2L in Tulsa, one of the best news directors in the history of broadcast television. He'll never say that about himself. Actually, he probably would. Bill's in Charleston. Bill, you may, if this thing does jog left, Bill, you may see some hurricane force wind gusts blowing from the land out to sea, but not anything that'll bring storm surge to you. So Marguerite has reminded after Matthew, she got a smartphone and a generator. Matthew was one of these surprise storms in Savannah hit Savannah with a little bit worse effects than a lot of folks expected there. So remember that you can use your car to start it up, charge your phones, all that kind of stuff. If your phone is a hot spot, you can get in your car, just start it up. Use your phone as a hot spot to use your tablet or your laptop or whatever else. Anyway, that's kind of what it is. Yeah, I learned more from Bill Payer than I can possibly tell you. It taught me a lot about the news business and basically gave me a career to be able to survive the cutthroat world that it still is today. It's worse today. Anyway, so thank you guys for watching. I sincerely appreciate your time and effort, but more than that, I sincerely appreciate you sharing this with others. I'm doing this because I ain't getting a dime out of this. All right, I'm doing this for the money. I'm not on Star 102.5 because I'm getting paid anything. I'm doing it because I want people here to have good information and from a local expert, someone that really understands what this stuff is like. So I'm not having to throw you to the wolves of the social media internets and interwebs to give you some great information that you can take home and use and hopefully make it a little bit more pleasant for yourself. Remember, every power line that comes down, think of it as a live power line. Remember that floodwaters are all contaminated with more chemicals and crap than you can ever imagine. Keep your kids out of floodwaters. A lot of floodwaters are very tempting to swim in. Don't, because they contain reptiles. They contain fire ants. They contain, by the way, fire ants killed man after Hurricane Hugo in Charleston. Fire ants are deadly when they get in floodwaters, as are reptiles, snakes that are just as irritated as you are and get hungry and look at you as a big hamburger. So understand that reptiles, livestock, fish, reptiles. I don't want to use livestock. I don't want you to be afraid of a cow swimming up in you. Reptiles, insects, chemicals in the water. Don't swim in the water. Keep the kids out of the water. Don't even get in the raft if you don't have to. And don't drive across water-covered roads because you don't know if the road is there. Very sad story from someone right now on this thread that lost his mother to a flash flood in a car years ago. It was a tough day for me to watch him struggle through that. Don't make that happen to any of your family members. Okay, seriously, don't let that happen to anybody in your family because you think that your car's tall enough to drive across that flooded road. Please, seriously, please. That's where most fatalities occur in these things, is flooding. It's not the winds. It's not the storm surge. It's the flooding. All right, guys, I'm going to go to bed, get about 6 hours sleep, show up on Star 102.5 in the morning. You can listen online. You can listen live if you live in the Sandhills. And I'll be back on and give more updates tomorrow morning sometime after that. Feel free to ask any questions of me that you want to ask me. Michelle Neptune just joined from Southern Pines. Elizabeth has been on for a while. Thank you guys so much for counting on this information. But again, if you haven't seen the video, if you joined us, go back and watch it from the beginning. There's a lot of stuff to grab. Bottom line is, again, for the Sandhills, we're going to see more wind. We're going to see more rain than what it looked like it was going to be earlier yesterday. But it's still not going to be a devastating blow. If you're prepared for it, you may have to live through a couple of days without electricity and air conditioning. That is never pleasant. But it is survivable. I've heard that we had human beings living on this planet for for tens of thousands, if not millions of years before we had things like air conditioners. I hear. That's a rumor. I can't confirm it. It's just not pleasant to live in a hot, humid house. I can't wait for that. All right, guys. Love you all. Thank you very much Thank you very much. Thank you, Sherry. I appreciate that. Thank you guys so much for all of your information. Thanks for helping me out, helping each other. That's what this is all about. Good night, guys. Talk to you tomorrow.